All right, we're gonna try to get to 525 around today. Got to drop the chopper, do stuff to put the head on, figure out my sprocket, and do all the I went this morning to the hardware store and just bought some aluminum flashing to just make inserts to put in here and then cover back up with the perforated auger tubes for now, because I don't have this one. This was originally a solid door and somebody cut a square out of it and welded in a piece of perforated metal, but I don't have a solid door for the clean grain. I don't have the tube for the clean grain. I can't remember if it's lowered. I think this lower door is solid. Yeah, that lower door is solid on that one. I do have a solid tailings set off the 7300, but I'm just gonna put the flashing in there for now and call her square. And then I got to do it for the clean out door on the hopper. So shouldn't be too long, but we had, that is if it doesn't keep raining. We already had a 1/4 inch this morning and we had a shower come through. I don't think it's supposed to keep raining, but things have just randomly been popping up and you really can't rely on what the radar or anything else has been saying. So anyhow, let's get down to the shop and do what we gotta do here. Okay, so for wheat, the first thing we gotta do is put the rock trap cover on, which the 7300 doesn't have this. They changed the rock trap. But the 525, 35, 45 have a rock trap like this. And since you don't gotta worry about picking up rocks with wheat, all this does is become a shit catch. So you cover it, or you put the rock trap cover in for corn too, for obvious reasons. You don't gotta worry about rocks with corn. But we pull this little door out. Another mouse nest. Actually, that might be a piece of what blew out the other day. And then this thing is just held in with plow bolts. This is actually one that we made because when I got this thing, it was set up for beans and there was nothing with it to run corn, so we had to make. And then they must not have, I'm trying to remember, okay, never mind. I thought for some reason, okay, go back in the hole. Fingers. Trying to remember if this thing fits better one way or the other, because it seems like these straps are not actually like quote unquote centered. I guess it fits the same both ways. It's been so long since I had this thing. Well, last time this would have been in here was the last time I ran corn, and I haven't ran corn with this thing in 7-8 years. Basically from the minute I started running the 7300. Okay, then the next thing we got to do, because for some reason they decided it was a good idea on the corn head and grain head to have the cylinders in two different positions. On the corn head, the cylinders push on the cross pipe that's part of the main frame, and then on the grain table they push right underneath the feeder house. So on the corn head they're wider. Right now it's set for the corn head because that was the last thing I moved with it when we were moving over to my barn. So the cylinders have to go here and here, which is just a matter of moving. And then this one, I believe I actually have to crack the fitting loose and flip it around to the other side of the cylinder, but it's been a minute. Alright, come on. Yep. In order to make this work, now that my hands are all covered in oil, just crack that fitting loose at that port adapter, and then because it's got to be coming in from this side. Actually looks like that, yeah, that hose has seen better days too, but don't know why this one's all split up and that one's fine. They're the same age. Alright, cylinders removed, rock trap covers in, and while I was doing all this, I just happened to look down and notice there's a little bearing dust seal hanging there on the axle shaft, and I walked around here and looked at it, and it's like, that bearing there in the brake housing is about ready to grenade itself. The bearing cage is all busted up and all the rollers are, you know, now it looks like they're all between here and here. So I called, I didn't even figure Maybach would be open today. I figured they'd be closed for 4-day weekend for the holiday, but they were open. So I got 2 new bearings coming. They're real easy to change. It doesn't take much. Just knock the axle shafts off, 3 bolts on that cover. You take the cover off, there's a snap ring, you knock the bearing out, you knock the new bearing in, put it back together. At least that's it, as long as nothing's stuck, and you know, but the axles aren't stuck and everything. So I already did these on the 7300 a couple years ago. So we'll have to do those this week when the bearings show up. Unfortunately, they're pretty proud of them things. I'm guessing there's a goofy IDOD combination or something. Just looking at the numbers it showed in the parts book for them. So they're at least through Maybach they were 137 bucks a piece. I was like, oh man. And I almost was like, yeah, I'll just wait and see what I can find locally, see if I can find them cheaper. But it's like, you know what, the minute you do that, you're either A, not going to be able to find them, or B, they're going to be just as expensive, or C, it's going to take you forever to get them. Maybach can have them. She ordered them today. I'm sure the holidays are going to screw things up, so they might have them probably Tuesday. I'll probably have them by Wednesday. No muss, no fuss. They show up, I slap them in. I don't have the combine sitting here like a beached whale, because you got the axles and stuff out of one side to get a bearing out to get numbers off of it, and that's if you can get the bearing out in one piece and still have intact numbers. It's just sometimes, as much as it sucks, it's easier to just pay the ransom. And oh hey, piece of bearing cage right there. Where'd that come from? It somehow stuck to the magnet on my mount. Sometimes, as much as it sucks, it's just easier to pay the ransom for the convenience of just having the part show up at your door. But anyhow, now what I got to do here is I gotta count the teeth on this upper sprocket, figure out what I got, figure out if I need to change it, which if I do have to change it, all this has been apart once before because we changed that bearing. So it should come apart fairly easily. Looks like that belt needs changed. Huh. But anyhow, it should run for 8 acres. I'll see if I can find a number on it. That should be something I can get around here. It's just a B cross-section belt. But I gotta figure out what sprocket I got here to figure out what I need down here, because if it's that 19 tooth sprocket that I've got, that sprocket's not, that thing's gonna tear up a chain. So we gotta figure out our sprocket combination. Well, my driver up on the beater shaft is a 30, and according to that, with a 30 on the beater shaft, to get at least 1,000 RPM, I need the 19 on the cylinder shaft. That'd give me 1,053. And my 19.2 sprocket isn't nearly as bad as I thought it was. I guess it's been a while since, I mean, it's not great, but it's not terrible. It'll do what I need it to do. So I think for now, I do need to clean some. And it's weird because there's some teeth that got some wear, and then there's some that still have paint in the bottom of them, which is weird. But anyhow, I need to clean some burrs off of it, and I think we're just going to run the 19 for now. That'll get me 1053. The 7300's got a 35 tooth driver on the beater shaft, so I could run a 22 tooth and get 1060. 7 RPM difference. I don't think it's worth the time to try to change it right now. So that's the plan. We're just gonna clean this guy up a little bit real quick so it'll go on the shaft and get some of the burrs knocked off the teeth. It's wore really weird. I don't fully. But anyhow, we're gonna clean this up, put this on, and that'll get us our cylinder speed. All right, so since we left yet, an entire day has passed. Right after I went to put this sprocket on, we had a friend show up that we ain't seen in a minute, and you know how that goes. Next thing you know, a short bullshit session later, the entire afternoon is shot, and by the time he left, I had to leave here to go deliver a load of straw. So I didn't get anything done on it past where we left yesterday. So hopefully today we can get it taken care of. Shelly and I went out to dinner last night, and I stopped and got a belt to replace that tailings drive, because it's probably it's not long for the world. So we gotta take the slug bar hub off. Hopefully all this stuff moves. It ain't been off in a minute. Where can I set you? Here maybe? If I can get it pointing where I want it. That's kind of where I want it. And she's gonna need a love tap. Okay, that's off. I just have to do a little cleaning.
back when I used to do everything with this, and I was switching back and forth between corn and beans, all this stuff had to get changed at least one time a year, so, well, twice a year, because normally you'd end on corn, and then switch to beans first in the fall, and then when you get done with beans, you'd switch back to corn. And so you'd be doing this twice a season. So all this stuff stayed loose, but it's been set up for beans for so long, I don't remember the last time I switched it to corn. Have to go back and see. So one nice thing about doing all the YouTube videos is I can go back and look. Because the last time it ran corn would have been the year before I bought the year before I first ran the 7300, and I had that on video. Master link is right there. All right, that. Well, it's loose. It's just a matter of will it slide off. It's trying, we're just gonna need a little help. The dang thing wants to be just stuck enough you can't get it off by hand. I think it's hanging up on the key, that's what it feels like. It's only got to come off the width of the hub because there's a step machined in the shaft. Alright, shaft's cleaned up, everything's ready to go. It's time to be replacing this Woodruff key. It's got a little wear going, so I'm going to reverse it so it's pulling on the good side. So we want it in there like that. It surprises me they only put one stay bolt on this, but they must have thought that was sufficient. Of course, I guess since the Woodruff key's actually clear back in here, you can't actually put one on the keyway. We're just gonna, just to make life easier, put a little dab of anti-seize on there too. it's easier to finish tightening it up once the chain's on and the machine can hold it back. All right, chain's on. This is the wheat chain for the 7300, but unfortunately I had to take 3 links out, or well, 2 links, because it would be 2, or would that be a link and a half? Either way, I had to take 4 pins out to get it short enough. But I kept the piece I took off, and all I have to do is throw another master link in it, and then it'll go back out to the right length to run wheat on the 7300 if need be. So next thing we want to do is attack this belt, but in order to do that belt, we have to do another thing to convert it to wheat, because naturally it's not quite the back belt on the stack, but actually if the chopper drive wasn't on it, it would be the outside belt on the stack, which would make things easier, but it's not the outside one. So what we got to do, because we got to slack these belts, and in order to make life easier, you just take this pulley off real quick. It's 4 bolts, pops off. But in order to loosen those belts, we have to loosen the back belt, and if we're going to loosen the back belt, we might as well drop the chopper off, because it's got to come off anyhow. So we can do that real quick. Alright, I got the chopper drive pulley off of that flange. So now we can, guess I'm not going to get on there with a deep well socket. So now we can get that belt off. If I remember right, because I think I've changed, I think this has been changed once before. If I remember right, it's kind of a pain to get it off of that top pulley because there's a clearance issue. Okay, this part's easier from the top, so let me grab a ladder. And it's kind of what I remember. The pulley is too close to the frame of the cab, or this isn't technically the cab, this is the platform. The cab doesn't start till right here.
but right there and right there, so you can't get the belt past the pulley, so you got to pull these 4 bolts and then the pulley will slide in and then you can get the belt out. Combine things. And once you bust all your knuckles getting that pulley off, the belt just comes right past. And I got, the book said it wasn't, they called it a weird cross section. They call it an HB, which I'm assuming is just a modern day equivalent to a B. And it was like a 21/32, it was just like a tick over, like a 16th over 5/8, or like a 32nd, not 16th, like a 32nd over a 5/8 cross section. So I just got a, where did I put it? I just got a B58, which is a 5/8 by 61, and it said HB cross section 61 inches long. So hopefully this is right, and it looks right. And I really want somebody to explain this to me. Maybe there's somebody who knows more about belts than I do, but you'd think 5/8 by 61, okay, 5/8 is a B cross section 61 inches long. Logic would say B61. So how come a 5/8 by 61 is a B58? Now the 5L610, that makes sense. 5L cross section, 5/8, 610, 61 inches long. But I never understood how come when you have a B number or an A number, the number in it doesn't match up. I never understood that. So now we can just fish this guy back through here. And then reverse the process. Okay, that belt and everything, all that's back together. Chopper belt's tied up. I got my concave in the right range, and it's rough set. The rear concave is just a tad wide if you go off of the initial book settings, but I'm not gonna mess with it for right now. That wheat should be dry enough, it shouldn't thresh real hard. So before I adjust the rear concave, I want to run it and see, and if it does okay, then we won't worry about it. But I think we should be able to, if there's any adjustment needed, I think we should be able to take care of most of it with the front concave. And with a 13-foot head, which is the biggest head available on this machine, most of them you see are 10-footers. There's going to be plenty of material going through here to keep this little cylinder full, so I think we'll be just fine. So cylinder speed set, concave set, chopper's off, we got that belt done, all that's taken care of. So the last thing we got to do right now, before I go and put the head on, is we have to take care of these screens. So I'm gonna have to actually find some solid doors and screens for this thing long term, but for right now we're just gonna use that flashing and that'll get us rolling. Guess before I forget, I probably need to put my inspection door back on, huh? They must have figured out real quick on these things that
this door was not adequate enough for checking rear concave clearance, because on the 7300, I think it's just on that side. I don't think they gave it to you on both sides, but one side is adequate. But on the 7300, they gave you a nice little door somewhere in this area. Anyway, somewhere right here by the rear concave that you pulled that door out, and that's where you were able to measure your rear concave spacing. This one, you got to go through that back door, because you can't, yeah, I guess you could. Of course, this only works if you don't have your filler blanks in the concave, but I guess you could technically reach through here. But I'm guessing my concave clearance is, the rear concave clearance is about 3/8, and the book tells you about 1/8. Well, like I say, with 13 feet of material going into it, I think you're probably better off to be a little wider. If it was a 10-foot head, it'd probably be all right. But anyway, so for the doors, I need 2 pieces, 6.5 wide and 14.25 long, and that'll roll in there to cover those up. Hoping to just get some plain galvanized, but the only thing the hardware store had was this blue, or this aluminum 2-color brown and white, so I guess that's what we got to work with. Cut the tape, huh? Okay, now if we did a good enough job here, that should play in here about like this. Ta-da! And we'll do the same thing over here. This one might be a little, ow, might be a little goofy. Because of how they welded the screen in here. Hopefully it fits about the same. Sweet. Guess I could have shaved a little bit off of there, but better to be a little long than a little short. So now, do the same thing on these and
the clean out door there on the grain tank, and we'll be good. All right, cylinders are moved, rock trap covers on, concaves in the right range, cylinder speed is set. I went over and did a quick glance at the rest of the belts. We're all good. Chopper's off. I got covers made for all the screens. That's ready to go. That one belt's changed. Which really, to switch this thing over to wheat, all you need to do is rock trap cover, concave range, solid doors, cylinder speed. So we should be good. We should be able to throw the head on it now. And it's a little, pull that thing out of its hole and see just how flat it is. It's been a hot minute since this thing's moved, if you can't tell. Question is, do I have a small enough hitch pin? I think that's too big. I think I need a 3. Yeah, that one's too big. That one's the same size. Dadgummit. Okay, let's roll this thing forward and see if that tire will make it down to the house or not. Two things in life you can guarantee. The grease gun will always be empty the first time you go to grab it, and header cart tires will be flat. It's not flat, so it'll make it down there. Keep me from having to drag the air tank up here. Actually, don't even have to drag the air tank up here. Got a Milwaukee cordless air pump that works really good. Actually, what's going on here, Bobby? What in the name of all that's holy? Why does it look like Bondo? But there's not any. Well, that's interesting. Huh. Alright, get this pulled down to the house. Okay, now for the fun part. Put a spanner bar, something that you can set the cylinders on so that they're down. Found out a long time ago you put a little bit of grease where the trunnions mount. It helps the head slide in, and then on either side of it, on like this interface right here, you slather some grease on either side of the head, and everything slides in a whole lot easier. You don't got to fight it as much. A rock trap flap goes down. You feed the belt in when you get closer. Make sure the rock trap door catches are down, and they are. That's these guys here. We're good. up is the cab on this thing is slightly off center. That belt gonna make it under the pulley. Okay, and then for safety, we shut her off for a minute. I already got that headlock in. This one needed a little persuasion. The drive belt's on, or I guess you call it the D-clutch belt. This is the drive belt, whatever sequence you want to put it in, but you have to make sure that this, when you get the head close enough, you got to make sure that this slips underneath the pulley. Otherwise you got to drop the belt tray off because there's not enough clearance. And then this belt goes back on. Well, this thing is shrunk a little bit sitting in the sun. It wasn't used to, or didn't used to be this tight. I need to grab a wrench for that, and a wrench for these, and the cylinders can get hooked up. Tell you what, guys that think that really, you think you're cool driving that fast down the back road like this? You suppose guys my age that are farming and they're running all the brand new stuff, where the hardest thing is about setting up a combine is unhooking from one head and hooking another one up, and then to switch a crop you just hit a button in the cab and it changes all your settings from one crop to another. And if you need to make any fine adjustments, you just turn a little dial and it moves all your sieves and your fan speed and all that crap from inside the cab. You think those guys know just how good they got it? I think everybody needs to at least one time in their life experience running a machine like this, and then you can truly appreciate just how far we have come and just how lucky we are, and just how easy they have it. Ow, fuck, that hurt. All right, tighten these up. That locks the rock trap door up against the bottom of the head. Oh, you gotta hook my, and need a rag for that. So hook my reel height hose up, hook those up, tighten that pulley, and then the head's on. And I guess this stuff can come off.
was not very far away from being rusted together. Okay, everything's hooked up. Forward a little bit. And we gotta drop the other locks. Stuff. Okay, now we gotta back up a little bit. It's been so long since I've done this, I got kind of completely, I didn't completely forget, but I kind of forgot the sequence of events. But okay, now that that's all done, you gotta pull the cart out from underneath the head because you can't get the head up far enough to clear the tires. What are we hooking? Oop, right there. Go. Gotta air the tires up in this thing before I take it back up and park it. Well, I guess we need to make sure nothing's stuck. Looky there. Left to do is we have to lock the cutter bar up, which will hopefully work the same way as it does on my White head, because basically when White made their flex head, all they did was copy a lug bar, so it should be the same. And grease it, and other than those two bearings, we should be good.
Okay, so it's slightly different, but slightly the same on this, whoops, on this love bar. You've got this big cross pin here that bolts to the original cutter bar backbone. Because originally your guards would bolt in these holes. And then you got this big pin that your counterbalance spring and your lift chain both hook on. So instead of on the other head where you move the top of the chain, all we'll have to do is, hopefully these bolts come out with about much of a fight. If not, I'll just cut them out, and I'm going to replace them either way, but we'll just have to move it from this link to probably this link. Will give me enough up, because unfortunately there's not going to be enough twist to use that one, and I don't think there's, I think you're going to hit stuff anyway, but that's going to pick it up a fair old bit right there. Okay, I got one done. It's not 100% perfect by any means, but it will do the job for now, and we can come up with a better lockup system at a later date. Ideally, looking at it, it would be a better system, and it wouldn't be that hard to make something that is not a chain. Just make something that's a hard link with a bolt or with a hole drilled in it, like with a piece of flat stock that just came down. Actually, that would be really damn easy. It would just be a little bit of a chore putting them on, because you'd have to release the tension on all the springs and tear a bunch of stuff apart. So, what I say, not something I'm worried about now, but it would be really easy if you can get a dimension to just drill a hole in a piece, or drill two holes in a piece of flat stock, a big one to go over this pin and a small one down here, and you just put a hard link in between them. It would be really easy. And then you don't gotta screw around fiddling with chain and trying to make all that work. And actually, the absolute best thing to do, which is what I want to do long term, it's going to take a minute to get the stuff around to do it, is to find a 7300 feeder house for this, narrow it up to make it fit a 525, and then just run the rigid head that I've got for the 7300 on this. And then you don't got to worry about locking a cutter bar up or nothing, because it's just already a rigid head. But for the time being, some hard links to lock this up would be a lot cheaper and a lot faster. Alright, I had to quit videoing because the neighbors started up their 4th of July party and they were playing music loud enough we could hear it over here, and YouTube's stupid and would not like that, even though I didn't intentionally put it in the video, so I had to quit. But anyway, you didn't miss much. I had like 5 or 6 sickle sections I had to replace. I greased it, oiled all the chains. I had an elevator chain that was funking a little bit, so I tightened it up. What else did I do? I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, that should be everything that I did. So as soon as those bearings show up, we can get those in, and once those 2 bearings are in brake housings down there, she is 100% ready to rock and roll. So as far as I know, I'm sure she'll let us know the first round if there's something I missed. But anyhow, I'm gonna put this video together real quick, and hopefully by the time that's done, it's cool off a little bit and I can go home and get the yard mowed, because I got some chores need done around the house. So anyhow, I guess that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one.